Welcome everyone. How are you doing? It's a wonderful Saturday. I got to tell you, I've been up since 4:30 this morning watching cricket. Didn't plan on watching the West Indies versus Scotland, but somehow my body woke up, so I watched that and I transitioned into watching some Manchester United, a lot of football, track and field, everything. Some basketball I watched as well today. So I want to first thank you for coming on. This is a rundown. My name is Dwayne. Sports Talk Tech is live. And we're going to talk about a number of things. I have a bunch of things planned to talk about, some of the great performances from this week. We had 2 World Indoor Gold Tours yesterday in Spain, a few days before in Ostrava, and tomorrow there's another one. So there's some interesting results, especially on the distance side, field events. So we want to chop that up if you're so inclined. There's some actually interesting news happening as well in the sport, and I'll touch on some of that. And if time permits, I might even talk a little bit of cricket. We try to do a lot of that as well. But I want to start because I think there's no other place to start. I wasn't quite sure if we were going to start here prior to before 12 today, but we're going to start with the Olympic champion out of St. Lucia, the national hero there, over 100 meters, fabulous athlete, Julian Alfred, back on the track in Arkansas, in Fayetteville there at the Tyson field, destroying a field that's just not in our class, so we won't really necessarily get into that part. But Julian just knocked off 2 back-to-back superb 60-meter times within an hour or so. She came out early in the prelims, dropped 7:04, looked really powerful, looked comfortable, and then she's back in the final. And I'm just gonna watch it again because I've been watching it. It was on ESPN if you're in the States, SEC network. But the way she came on, I'm just looking at her head down. It looks like a woman on a mission there, totally destroying the field, totally destroying them. And 7 flat didn't quite get the facility record by Aaliyah Hobbs, but this is a woman ready to go sub 7 seconds. I mean, what can we say? Look at the foot. She's like extending. I suspect Coach Flo is happy with this. It's like she never left. It's just a fantastic, fantastic performance there. And she utterly outclassed the field. Thomas coming in second in 7:37. It's just not even in the same frame. It's a totally different thing. And I'm happy. I'm really happy to see Julian back. And I don't know if she'll go to the World Indoor Championships. I don't know the answer to that yet. We'll find out. But this is a woman that would have possibly been disappointed with the end of last season, in the sense that Melissa Jefferson wouldn't, was one of the greatest 100-meter seasons we've ever seen in the sport. And, not being able to even contest the 200 meters because of injury. And so she's certainly going to figure out a way to come back. I mean, it's a champion athlete there. Lots of people coming through, and I want to big them up. I know I saw Dynamic early before we even started live. He's like, Julian Alfred is back. No time, no waste. Yeah. African, wishing Julian all the best. Wonderful focus athlete there from Michelle Arthur, 978. People loving Julian. Dynamic again. Sheer dominance. Looks like she's picked up from where she left off before getting injured. It looks so. I mean, it's not 100 meters, but the way she was attacking that, and I mean, she got down head low and just got in the transition into the speed is just like amazing. I'm just like looking at it again. She's just like, yeah, powerful, really powerfully built athlete. Can't wait to see how she ends the indoor season and then get outdoors. I suspect she'll be running some brilliant times. And, she ran a lot of great times last year, obviously not getting the kind of win she probably would have wanted. I certainly think there's a 10-6 will happen this season, and who knows where else that might take. Uh, where Average Joe, do you think Haka now replaces Jakob as the best 1500 5K combo guy in the world after Jakob's surgery? I will get into Jakob's surgery. I don't know. Currently, yeah, Jakob is out of the business right now. Ingebrigtsen won't be running for a while. I will touch on that in a little bit. We can share some of his posts in a second there. Yeah. Uh, oh, this Birch Axel says that 60-meter race reminds me of Shelley and Zion's parents track. You know, that is actually true. You know, not like you're saying that it looks similar. It just looks like a woman just heard the gun and she was gone and just destroy the field, right? And I don't think anybody look what there's some good times this season, and if we're being fair to people, but this is different class right now in terms of when she's stepping on the track. You know, Tia Clayton did a 702, but that was outdoors. We've had some 705s and some 706 and so on. It would be a massive, there wouldn't be even, there would be in the picture, but it would be a sizable win still. I mean, Alfred here just looks phenomenal, very powerful. She's always a powerful athlete. The strides just look good. I mean, there's nothing you can really say to maybe how she gets out, but I don't think she had an issue there. Like, I'm going to look at it one more time just to see. She yeah, yeah, I don't even think I can be critical here. I mean, if you compare it to the rest, I mean, probably took the first step or two, took a little bit more, but once she got out, she was into her running and it's just like powerfully built, right? You know, I agree with you on that comment. She's taken nothing for granted. I imagine you can't. I mean, in the sport, you can't. It is a non-championship year, and thank you everybody for coming through and for liking the video and for always being there. Get your comments and your thoughts. I'll certainly uh, get to them as quickly as possible. Yeah, I would say in a year like this for Alfred, what's the goal? She could go to the Commonwealth Games if she so desires. I'm not sure if she will. I don't know the answer to that yet. We'll probably find out. If she wanted to do that, probably it would be an easy run, I imagine, for her. It would be a great run for her to be there. We would really create a buzz to have the Olympic champion there. And I suspect some of the other talented athletes who might show up at the Commonwealth Games. So that might be an interesting space for her. I don't know if she'll do it. But for Alfred here, you're thinking about Ultimate Championship later on this year in Budapest. It's going to be nice. She has an automatic in. It's very competitive. It's going to be lots of prize money, and it's a new competition, a new program World Athletics is offering, and so you want to put your name on it, your stamp on it, your seal, however you want to think about it. Diamond League for sure. She'll be in a number of these major events, so the money will be there. You can only imagine that to get Alfred, the prize money has to be big. And in terms of not the prize money, the appearance fee. So I want to see her run as much as she possibly can. A lot more of a 200 would be nice too, because there's a lot there. And we saw glimpses of it last year. The London run was fabulous. Yeah. There's a lot she has to do too. And I there's no doubt in her mind and in anybody's mind that you have to look and see here's MJW destroyed the world last year, and now what am I going to do? How am I going to respond? And true champions look at that and say, okay, I'm coming, right? So we'll see what we get there. Ciro, what's going on? I think the college female sprinters are not showing up this year, especially in 60. Yeah, it's going to be interesting thing. They're not like killing the world, but I'm not sure what we should expect, to be honest with you. You look at some of even the times indoors over the quarter mile and other things. It's been a lot of tough competition over the last how many years, and some of these athletes also, run nationally too. So that could be an issue. I don't know to be honest. The time certainly looked not as impressive as before, uh, but we'll see. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, so that was a fabulous run from the Olympic champion. If you haven't seen it, it's all over the internet, I imagine. We also saw a couple of good performances today too at that meet. In particular, uh, the Nikisha Price ran well, I thought. Not spectacular in terms of times. She ran a 51.61, which is good because up until Amber Anning ran this morning, Lika Klava had a 51 flat a couple of days ago. Not a couple, yeah. Earlier this week in Ostrava, she went back to back when she won in Madrid yesterday, and Klava looked fairly well, I thought. But the Amber Anning running a world lead of 50.51, really a strong run too, challenged by Britton Wilson, who I'm happy to see as well, who ran a 51.46. So it's kind of heating up a bit. We haven't seen the sub 50s yet, but I don't know if we'll get that. We might, potentially closer to the World Championships. But it's good to see the mid 50s coming through. We might get something lower at times. I was also happy to see Nikisha Price. It looked like she has a little bit more. I'm saying this in a very nice way. Like the muscle structure looks better, right? A bit more meat on the bones, and she's a slender athlete. So I'm not saying she needs to be huge or anything like that, but I think she would be happy with that performance as well in her section of the 400 meters there. That was really, really good running, 51.61. I don't think they'll complain. But Amber Anning looked really good, very powerful as usual. She's a powerful athlete, and Wilson really challenged her, and she found another gear and delivered a spectacular performance. So you can't complain about that world leading time. It's really good. Let me get back to this comment here. It might be. It might be. Yeah, we have to see. It might be. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if will she go? Will Shawnee go? It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. To be honest with you, but hopefully we'll get to see that. We talked about Shawnee Miller-Weibo there a couple weeks ago. Well, last week on the live, and she dropped that fabulous 35 and change, I believe, over 300 meters. It's good to see that she's back. She looked really strong. And in a year like this, there's a lot of experimenting that's going to happen, right? We see athletes doing different disciplines. We saw Cardell Tinch the other day, and I know I'm kind of going tangential, but then he's like, I'm going to do some long jump for the rest of the season. So, it's very interesting. I mean, I know he was a jumper, but athletes are trying to do things. And now is the time to think, and now is the time to tweak, to figure out what you're going to do, because the cycle begins again next year if you're going to think about World Championships in China, then the LA Olympics. And for some people, that's the end of a career. For some people, it's the beginning. And for others, it's like stacking, right? So you have to be very, very careful as well. Yeah, there's some good runs today at different meets. I thought, even in the field events today, I think Perez Hernandez did a 14.75, but I didn't get to see that as well. We also had a world lead in the 60 meters from the former Nigerian athlete. Forgot his name. Saeed Salem now I think his real name is. He did a 6:48. Previously was 6:49. Even on the men's side, we haven't been getting a lot of world lead great times yet. But that would, we're not getting a lot of people under the 6.4s and so on. But time, there's time for that. The World Championship is still in the mix. We can't complain. It's going to come up in March. It's going to be one of those things where you just got to wait and see for some of the times. And athletes are just probably treating the season in a manner that it's just not the same, right? And it's going to be a long season for some in the context of if you're going to go to the Ultimate Championship. So yeah, can't complain. Let me touch on a couple more results that happened this week, and then I'll talk about some news in some interesting ways. I was very impressed with the last couple of days in terms of what we've been seeing at the World Indoor. So there are events that are happening that give me a lot of joy, and I hope if you're a full time track and field fan, you yourself would also find these things exciting. So on was it Tuesday? Tuesday in Ostrava, February 3rd, I think it happened. So that may have been Tuesday because I think actually I was driving while I was watching this, which is not a good thing to say. I mean, partially I had stopped and I watched this race. But the 800 meters at in Ostrava was outstanding because it featured it had Mark English in it. It also had the guy from Poland as well. But Cranston, outstanding there, 143.80, like national record also for English and big PBs all around there. That is like fourth on the all-time list in the 800 meters. And obviously Josh Howie this season's already broken the great Wilson Kipketer's record, and we spent a lot of time talking about that at length. But it's important to talk about because to run 143.83 is spectacular. So on the distance side there, you have to be happy with that. That's a big performance. It's a kind of shout-out performance for me for this week. Hurdles as well. We saw Daniel Williams winning back-to-back recently at New Balance and also Milrose Games. But I'm very pleased with what I saw from Shiakovskaya as well, running 778, looking good. I think she won again yesterday. It's really good competitive running there as well. So she's, inching into some good times as well. Yeah, off the top of my head, those are some interesting performances that we have to credit. Lika Klava as well, looking good. Talked about Lika Klava as where her ceiling is. Is she getting to the points where she wants to be? Because the 400 is moving beyond a lot of people, and there's a lot of talk about them changing the structure and what they're trying to do, and the preparation is somewhat different. So I don't know what that might mean for her. It might mean low 49s, but that still may not get you anywhere. To be honest with you. Field events. Jordan Geis, the guy from the United States, back-to-back performances, 22:04, world leading. So he had a world leading performance to win in Ostrava, comes back yesterday and does another 22:04. Tremendous throwing and good competition. Rajendra Campbell was there. I think Roger Steen. Early in the week, we saw, not New Balance and Milrose. We saw a good competition there from Campbell and the likes, and Joe Kovacs and all these different important people in the sport in the shot put in general. And so to see a guy going 22 back to back, that's a good thing for him. It's a competitive space, especially shot put for the Americans. It's not easy to get on that team, and so it's proper elite competition there. So really good. Men's hurdles too look good. I thought Iopis yesterday was splendid in his performance. Berkey Hylam too, back-to-back wins in terms of her performance. I think probably the standout performance yesterday in Madrid was Mohamed Atawi attempt on the 1,000 meter record there, right? He was trying to go for Suleiman's record and just missed it, right? Just outside of the world record. I think he lost it probably at around 800 meters or so. He had good splits, 26.75, if my memory serves me correctly. I have to check again. I had it on my notes. And I think he was like around 53.2 at 4, but he's just off the pace a bit. But that was really, really good running from Atawi there. He wasn't too happy. We all knew that he was going for a world record. It was built as a world record for him prior to the race. The pacing was structured for him, the lights, everything, but he just didn't pull it off, right? And he was upset a bit that he couldn't break the world record there, but uh, he has time. Really, he has time to to deal with that. All right. So those are some of the performances, and thank you for liking so far. Appreciate everybody on the live as usual. You know, I don't never take it for granted. There's some other stuff I have to talk about, obviously, in terms of performance wise, but we can get back to some of that in 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 as we progress for this life, because I want to touch on some other things as well this evening, and I think it's important to talk on about a couple of things. So I think earlier on the live here, I think Average Joe asked a question about Jakob, right? And so Jakob Ingebrigtsen, I mean, what can we say about that guy? A fabulous athlete, you know, won all the things he needed to win early as a kid, struggled over the last couple of years in terms of injury, in terms of probably finding the right time or pacing to really do a good job over 15 meters in particular, right? Last year wasn't the best for him. I think he's been struggling in terms of injury. So the big news that we got out of Ingebrigtsen was that he under uh, he had to do some surgery recently. So he did surgery on the left Achilles in the United States here in California, and I'm happy. I mean, everybody should be happy. I think he's been struggling different ways. It's not the same leg that he had the injury on. Remember, if you remember, a couple of years ago, he had an Achilles injury, and I think it was on the right. This one is on the left, and it's not the Achilles as far as we understand. And yeah, we could read some of what he says there, and you know, he's there with his family as a young child, and I think that is his wife or his partner there. And yeah, he hasn't done anything this season, and I don't think we'll see him for a while. I think there's some issues with, as I understand it, the sheath between the Achilles, and so they took the decision. I think he was developing some scar tissue there, so they took the decision to probably clean that up. I don't know how long that takes you out for with a surgery like that. Not sure if he'll take him out for the entire year. Hopefully that's not the case. Uh, you know, if it was a real Achilles injury in the sense that he had a rupture, he'd be looking at a year out of the sport minimum in terms of trying to get himself back. But it's not one of those things. And so what is happening to him is that this is causing him to do the kind of proper training that he needs. And so this is good that I've lost something here. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. So he's got the surgery, and he can get on the mend, right? And so maybe he needs the entire year to get back, and then let's see what he can do next year at the World Championships. Because I think if you think about Ingebrigtsen, he probably wants to get another Olympic gold medal. I'm sure he wants to get a World Championship medal, but we have to wait and see what the world what will happen, right? There's a lot of competition. The 1500 meters is a different space. Last year we saw new people winning it, and some of the stalwarts are still in the sport, so we'll have to see. Let me get to this comment. Do you think Jakob's injuries are a result of his rapid rise to the top, and does Sam Root's longevity also face the same kind of risk? So the short answer to that is I don't know in terms of especially Sam Root. Sam Root is such a talented athlete. He is just every week he's just doing things that we haven't seen, right? He's breaking age group records. Last year he broke onto the scene on the 4-minute mile. Again this year, he's doing a spectacular type of stuff for his age group now at 16. So far I don't think he has any issue. I hope he doesn't develop any problems, but so I can't speak to whether or not anything will happen there, right? But as a 16-year-old Ruth, what he ran recently, 3:48 mile. So he's breaking these barriers. He looks good. He looks like a man against boys in terms of his ability to do that. And let's be honest, like even if you take his age out of it, Ruth is in like a category where only 10 men have really done better than him in terms of those kind of times running indoors, right? And I don't really know what to say. So I hope he doesn't get injured, but it's possible, right? One of the challenges of a kid that young running in any sport in track and field or doing any sport in general is that they're not a developed athlete, they're right. What he's still growing, he's still becoming an important person. Not important, he's going to become a man at some point. So it's possible that things will happen. I suspect that they need to just handle that properly. Now, to your initial question about if the injuries for Jakob is because of his rapid rise, I don't know either, right? Because we've seen a lot of teenagers break onto the scene in the sport, right? It happens all the time in terms of, especially in distance as well, right? So it's just one of those things, right? Sometimes you get injuries, you develop things. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's pure speculation if to suggest that if that's the cause. It doesn't strike me as if he was overworked in the context of getting him to do things that he shouldn't have been doing. He was able to do it, and then he starts to struggle with injury. And a lot of athletes get that all the time, right? It's sometimes it just happens. Sometimes it's change a program. Sometimes it's been unfortunate, and yeah, we see it a lot, especially in the distance guys, and especially they have to do a lot of miles, and it happens sometimes. Develop all these different foot related injuries. So I don't know. Jakob, the good thing about Jakob is that he's 25, so he has a lot of time, assuming that he can get back into the right shape. So if he's healthy, if he has a great season, I would imagine that you would expect to see Ingebrigtsen back to his very best. I I think he can still get faster. He was toying around at one point. We thought a couple of years ago he was going to try and push for that Ikam Elgar Rouge world record. Is that still in sight? I'm not 100% sure, but if he can get back in the right shape and train hard, he's not over the hill. He's not pushing 30s or anything like that. He's a youngster. So, and we also must remember with Jakob, he's gone through a lot of off the track and track related off the track situations, right? Dealing with issues with his father and his family, and it those things will also take a toll on you, separate and apart from picking up niggles and injuries here and there. So we shall see what we get from Ingebrigtsen. I wish him the very best, and I think he'll be fine. If this is the real problem that's holding him back, then we'll see. I think he also has issues beyond that in terms of a more like a tactical setup, in the sense that maybe in the championship races he hasn't timed it right when he lost those few years to Whiteman and to Josh Kerr and so on, and then utterly got run out in Paris. It's there's something there, right? Because he had run fast early in the season as well. So there is some kind of a race strategy thing that they have to work on. It could be a mental thing in terms of, and not mental in the sense that he's just not clocking the thing the right way. But his ability is never something that worried most people, I would imagine. It never worried me. You look at him and you say, this is a top class athlete, and he's going to do something special. So let's see if he gets back in the right shape. So we wish Jakob a speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets back in the right shape. All right. I want to touch on something quickly too. I'm just running through a few different things with track and field first, and I might go to other sports if we have the time. Tomorrow's Super Bowl too. I don't know if you have picks for the Super Bowl, if you're watching it or not, but we'll see. I want to bring up something that we talk about a lot on this channel, and it's Grand Slam track. Many of you would have probably seen the article in the Times earlier this week. And the gist of it, I'm not going to spend a long time on this, but the gist of this is that World Athletics has now made it abundantly clear that they will refuse to license any 2026 Grand Slam track events unless all outstanding debts from 2025 are fully paid. And so this now is potentially the nail in the coffin in terms of seeing any form of Grand Slam 2026. So if you were on the lives last week, or if you've been reading and following the space, and Margaret Fleming, who has been on the channel before, who's been breaking all of these from Front Office Sports, and I'll get her back on the channel at some point. We've talked a little bit off air as well, is that the latest thing that happened, and we had a week ago or so, was when they were going through the bankruptcy filing, they were asking for this special dispensation for a set amount of money. I believe it was somewhere around $400,000 in order to secure and market and prepare for next year, for the event this year. And that came on the backs. After that came out, and somewhere around that time too, the athletics representatives, the Managers Association, put out a firm statement saying that, this is not, they cannot support this. They cannot support athletes participating if they aren't paid, right? So any kind of restructuring, and the restructuring happened on Friday, I think was on the 30th was the last, and I haven't seen any details after the filings, so I have to go look for that. I don't know if it's out yet, but they had to file the last proceedings for the bankruptcy, which is a restructuring portion of it. So we're not sure, at least I'm not sure, at least at the time of saying this, if they made a special dispensation to include the payment of the athletes in the restructuring. I doubt it is, because it's now a significant portion of the debt, including what they owe to the vendors as well. So with the managers standing firm, putting that out, but with World Athletics now coming out and saying that they will not support this in any way, then it's going to be a problem for them, because that now fundamentally means that they can't put on a track and field meet of any note. Perhaps they could still try something, but part of being under the supervision of World Athletics is that your meet is aligned with them. You follow a certain protocol. The athletes know that when they show up to your meet, the times, the things that they do will count towards world rankings and other type of things like that. That is all things that they think about when they're thinking about their career. And so that's not there. So you got to pay the athletes. I've been firm about this. Look, if you just don't, if it's better you close shop 100% and not pay people if you can't do it, but you have to pay them. You can't start a new meet, and I know some of them are contracted on a multi-year, but you cannot start a new meet if you don't pay the athletes. So so it's unreasonable to restart without finding money there. So that was the update last week from, or earlier this week or so, from World Athletics, suggesting that they will effectively, GST cannot restart without the full payment of the athletes. Cool. So big story there, and wanted to touch on that in some interesting ways. Cool. All right. I don't see any more comments coming through. So if you have comments, don't forget to put them through, and we'll get to that. All right. Want to touch on a part of the sport, still with track and field here, and I'm happy to change it at any time. I want to touch on a not so good part of the sport again, from one disappointment to the other, and want to spend a little time talking about some of the athletics integrity units posting this week. So if you follow the AIU, which is in charge of dealing with sanctions related to anti-doping violations in the sport of track and field, you would have seen a number of names pop up for different reasons. First, I want to start with the Kenyan Bernard Koech, who was a fifth place finisher at the Paris Olympics in the 10,000 meters. He's now been disqualified and banned from that as well. So his results up to that point has also been taken out of the books, and he will not be able to compete until 2029. And the reason for his suspension is because the athletics integrity unit found significant abnormalities in his biological passport. So obviously, without knowing the full details of everything, there's some blood doping he's been accused of there. There's some his hemoglobin levels are off, I think. And I read the thing from the AIU earlier this year, so earlier this week. So I'd have to check it again. We can put it up at some point. But yeah, so he's probably tampered with it in some capacity, and so he's gone. Right. So his results, he's now disqualified from the 2027, 2026, 2024 games. He didn't get a medal, but that's not the point. And as we all remember, Joshua Cheptegei with a brilliant run there at that time, and so his results are now gone. So it's sad, but it's also good as well, if I'm being honest with you, because when you catch people, you have to catch them, right? In the sense that sometimes they get away. It takes years sometimes to figure out this. It takes resampling. We saw it earlier this year with the athlete there from Bulgaria, Yvette Lalova. She she tested positive on a retesting, and as we know, the Olympic samples are kept for 10 years. So by random resampling, they can check to see if at the time when they tested you, you were evading. Maybe you've been using something that they couldn't test, or something happened. And yeah, so we've seen that. And yeah, he's gone. That's a good thing. Now, it's never good for the sport to have athletes doing these things, but it's one of those things. Now, the other one, and this one again is something that always is upsetting to me. I don't know how many videos I'll do on whereabouts violation, but Ashley Newman from Canada, as you know, Olympic medalist, she just got suspended for missing 3 tests in a year. And I think this is a video of her. I don't know if we'll play it, where she's explaining on her social media that she really screwed up. She technically admitted this. She's never she also fundamentally says that she's never failed a drug test, and she has not. I mean, we want to make that clear. She hasn't failed a test ever since she's been in the sport. But I keep saying I don't know how athletes are making these mistakes. The atoms is pretty simple. The atoms, as many of you know, because if you're track and field fans, you'll know this, is just a thing you fill out. And you have to tell the authorities that you'll be here at least for an hour every day, and you just fill it out. And you can update it. You can say, I was going to be, something can happen, and you can update it, right? So you have to be on top of this. And it's something that the AIU, they do all the trainings. The atoms becomes easier over time in terms of how simple it is to work with. And there's trainings, even trainings that you can watch. There's all these videos on them on the Athletics Integrity Unit's website. So it's very important that as an athlete, and as an athlete of her caliber too, to just get knocked from a whereabouts violation is just, you don't want to do that. Now, here's my take. Now, I don't know. I mean, she has not been tested positive for anything, but this is the thing I say all the time. Whenever you get done for a whereabouts violation, you have effectively opened space for people to look at you sideways. And this is for every athlete that's done it, whether you are Raven Saunders, whether you are what's the one that just came off of Kristen Coleman, whether you are the one that his dad was a coach, Russ. Yeah, he ran last week after he served his Dwayne Russ, and yeah, when he his whereabouts suspension was up. When you miss these things, people are going to speculate about whether or not you purposely missed them. And the reason why we will speculate that that happens is because we have evidence that athletes purposely miss tests when they are intentionally taking performance enhancing drugs. So I'm not saying Newman is doing this. I want to be abundantly clear. There's no evidence of that. But when you do miss 3 tests in a calendar year, you're opening up yourself for people to question whether or not you're hiding. It's hard to get out of that. It's because it becomes increasingly unlikely if you understand that you're making these kind of mistakes. It's just not a thing you should be doing. And when I say we have evidence from this, we can even go back to the Eric Lira Blessing Okabara case. And when the testers came up the door, there's evidence from the records that we have that's are publicly available now, I believe, that showed that she was calling Lira before a test. Should I intentionally miss the test? So athletes do this, especially when they are cheating. And they'll try to figure it out because, especially if you're microdosing or however you're doing it, you might be like, I've probably got to miss this test right now because I might get in trouble. So I'm not saying Newman took anything, but when you miss 3 in a row in a calendar year, we have problems. And it's hard to get off of that. It's hard for people to look at you with a straight face. And she's a lovely athlete. She has a lot of connections in the sport in Canada. She's a big athlete, and it's just not something that you want to see. So again, athletes should not be missing whereabouts violations, and no one can tell me otherwise. It's very simple, and it's something about being a professional, and especially if you have a team, especially if you're on the end where you are like a top class athlete that have management and so on. You don't mess around with that kind of stuff. It's just not a thing, right? So that's the thing in the sport of track and field on the drugs. Speaking of that, I don't know if you've seen. I step away and talk a little bit about Winter Olympics because this one was really interesting. This earlier this week. So I don't know if you saw or any of you out there saw that there is suspicion that some male skiers may be injecting hyaluronic acid into their private parts before they do their pre-season body measurement. Now, let's start with the facts. Hyaluronic acid is not a performance enhancing drugs. It's not illegal. It's something that you probably in your facial moisturizer or something like that you get prescribed by your doctor or your dermatologist or something like that. Now the question is like, how does that work now for injecting that in those regions? Well, if you know anything about skiing, and I learned this a year or two ago, and now it's a refresher. I'm not a big winter sports guy, but they do these 3D body scans to measure the suit that you're going to wear, right? It's the kind of tightness, and there's a tolerance in the suit of 2 to 4 centimeters in the crotch height area. So it allows for, whatever. It gives you some leeway there when they do the scans. And so apparently injecting the hyaluronic acid, it can temporarily cause an increase of the circumference of that area. And so if you do that prior to doing the suit measurement, it will give you a bit more surface area, and apparently getting more surface area in that could means that you could have more lift or longer flight in ski. Now, the problem with this is that as I said, injecting hyaluronic acid is not going to be, it's not going to show up as a performance enhancement. It's hilarious, but it's something that the World Anti-Doping WADA is looking into, because it's fundamentally, if this is true, if they're actually injecting this in order to get a bit more space in that region of the ski to create more flight and lift, then you're effectively cheating. And so they have to look into that. But this was an interesting story. It was I saw it on the BBC. I think Bild in Germany also had I think they were the one, that newspaper who who broke that before. So that was the kind of thing that marred, or not marred, but it's a little bit of a humor around the opening of the Winter Olympics that's currently going on. So it's actually injection for aerodynamics, which is kind of funny, but it's not uncommon for athletes to do things that will be cheating. That's not, that potentially you can do and cheat and get away with, right? They're all looking for an advantage in some ways. Like, I remember, and I'm going on tangents here, cycling. I don't know if you remember last year, but there a lot of cyclists they were purposely inhaling carbon monoxide, right? So they're getting it environmentally, in the sense that so blood doping is what these distance athletes or endurance athletes in general will do, and we know about that, try to get EPO and all of that. But carbon monoxide is a funny thing. So they were going around smelling at the back of the the bus. They're doing it in small dosages over a long period, which then eventually change the oxygen in how your body produces your blood oxygen and all of that. And so that's cheating, right? They're effectively blood doping, but not by injecting EPO, not by saving the blood and putting it around the time of competition. So yeah, those are things that WADA or all the governing bodies would investigate, right? So, for example, like, obviously there's a biological passport in track and field, but you live in certain places, you can do some interesting things that probably can give you some advantages at small doses that won't really look like you're doing anything illegal, right? And so that's the thing there. So I thought that was a humorous doping story to talk about. It's not technically doping, back to the Winter Olympics thing, because it's not on the list, but it is actually trying to gain an advantage. It's some form of a manipulation, because if the suit of the skiers are bigger than it should be, then you are going to get an advantage. And the lengths or the lack thereof people go to gain advantage. So that, I think that story has been catching fire, and something that's interesting that we had to talk about. Yeah, cool. I hope everybody's doing well. I know we've been touching on a number of things so far, and it's a Saturday evening, and wherever you are, and yeah, I'm going to transition away from track and field, and I can come back to track and field at any time you want, and by just making sure you signal in the comment section. But I want to briefly touch on some cricket. So the World T20 got off today in Sri Lanka and Kenya. Don't know how many of you are cricket fans or if you watched that, but it was an interesting day. So we saw Pakistan struggle to beat the Netherlands. We also saw India in the late game. At one point, looked like the United States were going to restrict them for under 100. In the end, they made 161 for 9, and in the end, comfortably won the match. But the United States put them through some real hardships there. And obviously, my beloved West Indies, and if you're from a Caribbean flavor, They were the second match of the day, playing Scotland, who initially was not in the tournament but came in as a late replacement for Bangladesh because of political reasons. If you've been following the cricket, Bangladesh is having a little tete-a-tete with India that's now spill over into the cricket from a franchise level and also on this level, and they're making these political stance, and they wanted to ensure that they weren't going to play in India, and the ICC didn't grant that, and so they're not there. So the West Indies, who most people aren't giving any chance, including myself, at this competition, because it's hard for me to see this, got off to a good start. They made 182 for 5. I thought it was about 10 to 15 runs short given how they batted this morning. Phenomenal batting from Shimron Hetmyer, who has been elevated to the number 3 position. A tough position to be in T20. But Hetmyer, 64 of 36. He was a standout in those pre-warm-up games for the World Cup. In South Africa, thought it was really good. West Indies got off to an interesting start, and I'll be critical in an interesting way. So one, I thought Brandon King and Shea Hope, Captain Shea Hope, got off okay. In the end, they made 35 for King, 19 for Hope. But the way they got off wasn't particularly explosive in the power play. It was decent, but not overall explosive. And so, but they were there, and you have to build on that and accumulate the runs. But immediately they lost the wickets quickly, and Hetmyer had to come in, and shortly Rovman Powell, former captain, who I still was unfairly, I think that was unfair on Rovman Powell, but that's for another story. And they tried to build something, and Hetmyer was a bit shaky a little bit at the start, but it could have been caught. But then he started to hit power hitting at its finest. Also trying to turn over the strike rate, which was something I thought the West Indies were trying to do. It's a major defect in terms of their batting. But they managed to pull through in the end. Could have gotten or should have gotten another 10 to 15 runs off of the last 2 overs. By the time Hetmyer was dismissed, and, Shafane Rutherford as well going after. But Shepherd and Ford at the end there. And the West Indies had 182 to defend. It should have been like 190, probably close to 195 to me, or even 200 runs. Started off okay in terms of the bowling, not particularly great. But I think the performance here is that, first, you got to give credit to Jason Holder for getting rid of the Scottish captain, Richie Barrington, who made 42 runs. But that eked out one of the finest bowling performances that you'll see in this tournament, I believe, or in any T20 international, from Romario Shepherd, the big man from Guyana, the Guyanese there. A hat trick, a fifer. That is a special performance. There's not many people that can get a hat trick in T20 or any form of international cricket. So he gets a hat trick in some spectacular fashion. I encourage you to go watch the highlights if you haven't seen it. And he also picks up 5 wickets in the match. Didn't get the man of the match. That went to Shimron Hetmyer, which is interesting because, if you get 5 wickets, you take a hat trick, that might suggest that you would be in line for the man of the match. But it ended up going to Hetmyer, who I think his batting was the thing that really pushed West Indies at the score that they needed. It was a level of maturity there that we haven't really seen all the time from Hetmyer. Talent-wise, we know he's spectacular, but he's had disciplinary problems and commitment problems to West Indies cricket. And for some people, him in the squad was even a problem. But I'm happy that he's doing this, and I hope he has a successful tournament, and the West Indies may be able to do something. They're lacking a really quality bowler that can just come on at any point and probably get some wickets. But it's a decent unit, and maybe if they gel together, the coach, Sammy, says no one is giving them a chance. And rightly so, because there's no evidence for us to give you a chance. But if you build your way in a tournament, and that's the thing about tournaments, whether it's football or cricket or so, if you can get your guys going, structure something the right way, who knows what could happen, right? It's a good way to start off for the West Indies. Hetmyer to a spectacular catch There's a spectacular catch, I believe, to get rid of Hetmeyer from the Scottish guy, I believe. But Hetmeyer did a spectacular catch to a one-handed catch there. You have to watch that as well. It is this tremendous uh, uh, feeling from him as well, and overall cricket. So I guess maybe those things put together would have put him in a position to suggest that he's deserving of the man of the match performance. So the West Indies started off well. India very shaky, and the entire Indian is like wondering what happened. The United States there, putting him under real pressure. At one point, I'll be honest with you, I was watching parts of that match because I was watching Manchester United, and I'll get to that a little bit, and then in and out. And I put it back on, and India was struggling at one point. I think like 77 or so for six or so, and against the United States, right? Which is interesting. And if it wasn't for Surya Kumar Yadav, 84 off 49 balls, there is no way that India would have enough to push through. And early on, in response, the US struggled for sure. They were like 3 down for 12, I believe, or 15, somewhere there. And a valiant effort by the the US outfit. India expected to win this tournament. I think they're overwhelming favorites. They're at home. Lots of pressure also to do that as well. But so far, the T20 World Cup is interesting. I didn't get to see the match with Pakistan and the Netherlands. I saw highlights of it, and the Netherlands could have pulled that off as well. So who knows? I mean, sometimes you got to work your way in. You're never quite sure what you get with Pakistan too, but it's been interesting so far. So tomorrow should be a good day tomorrow. In fact, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, Afghanistan kicks off with New Zealand. That should be a great game. I think England plays Nepal tomorrow as well, and can't quite remember what the other game is, but uh, it's going to be interesting there. So wanted to touch on a little bit of cricket for the cricket people, and also your thoughts on the West Indies performance. What's your thoughts on whether or not they can actually do something? It's the first match. They got off to a good start. You want to do that. Hopefully they can qualify out of the group, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's good. Lots of stuff happening. Super Bowl tomorrow. Who you got? See, I have the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks should pull it off. Partially, I'm not, I respect New England, but New England always they hurt me a lot. So I don't want to, can't imagine. The bookies are saying it should be Seattle, but you have to play the game. So it should be an interesting game tomorrow as well. Lots in football as well going on. The Premier League looked good today. Manchester United 4 in a row on the Michael Carrick. So if you're a United fan, you're probably giddy. You're probably saying, give him the job. I don't know if he'll give him the job yet, but he's certainly not doing anything wrong. He's right a ship so far. I don't know if Manchester United is back, but the attitude is different from the players, the way in which they're playing, some adaptability as well. And for him to play 4 games, starting off in a Manchester derby and beating City, then going to the presumptive champions, Arsenal, who should win the league. They also played well today. And then you beat Fulham, then you beat Tottenham. I think he's cooking, and hopefully it continues well. Netherlands winning would be sensational. That's the comment here from Mark. Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I think the Netherlands have improved in cricket tremendously. I think the team to look at too is Nepal. They may be, I don't know if they'll win games. They might surprise. They've been playing a lot of T20 cricket over the last how many years. So there is something there. And, it's especially, I think those conditions are also favorable for the South Asians as well, right? You think about, Pakistan might do something, Sri Lanka, they're all co-hosting, obviously. So you never know. India still overwhelming favorites. I'm not quite sure what we'll get. I think what happened to the Indians today would be something that they got to think about. India's a kind of interesting side. They'll win every game, get to the final, and then that's the one they lose. So maybe you never want to start all peaking early in a tournament, but you want to develop and build into it. But they have certainly all the tools to do that. They've taken over cricket in terms of the development in fundamental ways. The kind of money, the IPL money, the money that's pushing towards every region in Indian cricket, and the facilities that they're developing is unbelievable. And just the population, sheer size of the population, and a population who are very much hungry for the sport. Yeah, yeah. Under 19, they just won the under 19 World Cup there as well. So we'll see. Yeah. So yeah, the Premier League is interesting. I didn't get to watch any La Liga today, but I saw some. I saw Newcastle struggle today as well. I watched the Arsenal game, and yeah. So I don't even know what else I watched today, but watched a little basketball as well. Some Purdue basketball. They're also not giving me quite enough joy in recent times, but hopefully that's a reset by the time we get to March Madness. Cool. All right. It's been an hour, guys. I don't know if I've covered everything that I wanted to come here. I had some notes, and I think I didn't touch on every performance from this week in the world of track and field. I'm sure some more will be happening tomorrow. There's another gold indoor meeting too as well, so we should get some good performances there. But so far, track and field is good. Sport in general is good. Super Bowl tomorrow as well. So I look forward to getting your comments. So if you're coming on late and watching on the rebroadcast, put your comments in. I'll do my best to get to them. I don't always get to every comment, but I try to. And for those of you joining me to this evening, I appreciate you as usual. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend, and let people know that there's some good stuff happening here over on Sports Talk Tech. This has been the rundown. I'll be back soon with some more videos and some more live shows. And thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.